Yeah, so it's like daylight savings time. That was like 2 weeks ago in the U.S. or like
Yeah,
longer.
it was 2 weeks ago for us, but for everyone else, now they caught up.
So are they earlier or later?
I think they're later, but after
Okay.
tomorrow, they're gonna be early. They're gonna be like in sync with us. Yeah, we should
Okay.
just got rid of it.
Okay. I like it, but okay. I think next week I'll move it an hour earlier because it's 11 o'clock right now in California, and that's
Hmm.
like I like 10 o'clock better because it's 11 o'clock is sort of awkward because it's like I start doing something else and then
You get distracted, and
but there's
then all of a sudden,
yeah, but there's not really enough time to do anything. Okay.
right,
Okay, we are
right,
recording. Cool. Okay, well that's fine because I'm going to go through today's material very quickly because I want to get back to work. I'm usually I try to time these so that I have like a good stopping point so I can show you the week's progress, but it didn't really work out that way this week. I'm in the middle of something right now, so I'll just
right.
go through this. So most of the week I was working on the mesh layers system. And this is the replacement to the vegetation system from Leadworks. What's special here is in Leadworks, I was using a geometry shader to do the to call all the instances on the GPU. In Ultra, I'm using a compute shader, which gives me quite a lot more flexibility.
Right.
Okay,
Are you
so
streaming? No. Are you supposed to be streaming, or are you just talking?
oh yeah, I should yeah
Yeah.
share your screen, display screens, one, go live. Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made this tree in a little program called Tree It, which I recommend that everybody get. It's you can get the free version from the website Evolve Software, or you can get it on Steam for like $4.
Isn't this application stop development? Like, because I was looking into it, and they said like hasn't been updated in a while. But if it works, it works. I mean, if it's making,
I don't
The
know. You
last
can make
Steam
stuff like
update,
this procedurally, and it's pretty
the
good.
last Steam update was like 2 weeks ago.
oh, okay. And what's the difference between the Steam version and the free version? That was my question.
I don't know.
It seems, it
I
seems
got
like it
both.
seems like it seems like they added the price so it gets recommended in Steam.
That's actually a good idea. Like you can sell products on Steam. They're I guarantee you they're selling more copies on Steam than they could give away for free.
Yeah, because it's being pushed by the algorithm. That was something I was recommended I do, even if like you just put like a price on. If you just put a price on something, Steam is more likely just to recommend it.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. So
I don't know why they're focusing on like palm trees and stuff because you can also do like some
pine trees.
yeah you can do a lot of different stuff with this. It's actually like pretty
Hmm.
impressive.
Hmm.
So that's how I made this. This is pretty much just the default spruce tree. This is I used like the third or fourth LOD levels. I used two LOD levels. Uh,
Hmm.
well, three if you include the imposter. So there's two models, and the popping between those two variations is not bad. And then in the distance, you can see that the imposters look really bad. And the issue here is that it's rendering like a. Let me see if I can get a good look at it, like from the top down, especially. Those things in the distance are just sort of a cross. It's like two planes, and you have some issues with that. It's never going to look very good. So what one of the things I need to do is add a system to basically render imposters. And so what that does is it renders a view of the model from I think I'm going to use 8 different directions all around the model. and then you have a sprite that basically like faces the camera with it uses a shader, so it always faces the camera, and then it picks the texture to display based on the angle between it and the camera. Like you can see it right here actually in like right here you can see this plane is really dark, and then you have another plane that might be the tree trunk actually. But you can see there's like you can definitely see like a distinct like X shape, and so it screws up the lighting. So that, this is basically just filler at that something to fill in at this point. But imposters are
very boxy.
Yeah. So imposters are one of the things that I'm gonna add to make those. Once I do that, those things in the distance it'll be like the transition will be pretty much imperceptible, just like it is with Leadworks actually. Like the transition from like model geometry to the imposter is actually pretty good. I'm also only gonna do I'm not gonna do a top down view because there's really no way to make that look good. Like the transition between like a side view and a top down view, it looks bad no matter what you do. So I think I'm going to skip that. Let's see. This is also, it's easy to overload the vertex pipeline with this. Like each of these rocks is about 3,000 vertices, I think. Maybe 2,000, maybe something like that. I don't want to watch stupid Mr. Beast. Why is this guy's ugly face everywhere? Sorry. All right. These trees are like 2,000 vertices each. So it's under normal conditions, it's pretty rare for the vertex the vertex pipeline to become a bottleneck. But when you're doing big forests, then it can. And so that's something you have to keep under control. You can do I think you can do like big expansive areas with lots of trees, which is what I'm trying to focus on right now. You can also do small areas with higher resolution trees, like that program I showed you. That'll put out like a 20,000 polygon oak tree, and it looks great. But you probably don't want to try to make a forest out of those. It's kind of like you need to think in terms of like you've got a certain budget, at least unless you're just operating on really, really high-end GPUs, then it might not be an issue. But you've got a certain budget, and you can either distribute all those vertices in a very near area and use very high resolution stuff, or you can distribute it across, way off into the distance and have very big scenes. But right now I'm just going for numbers of trees. I'm trying to maximize that.
What about the different number of different kinds of trees?
That won't matter at all.
Okay.
That will have no impact at all. So if it's rendering this, then it can just as easily render. It will just as easily render 20 different trees as it is rendering just one tree over and over again. Like remember one of our benchmarks that I made. It was just a bunch of unique boxes.
Yeah.
And it's testing like the number of draw calls, and I said it doesn't matter if it's boxes or if it's like whatever else in your level, like it'll run just as fast. And then Alien Head made his video that I showed I think last week, and it was demonstrating exactly what I said. So adding more variation, more rocks, more trees will not slow this down at all. So
but does the GPU have some kind of occlusion cooling, or is it all done by CPU?
Okay, so I found some interesting things. I'm doing for this. Normally I do culling, frustum culling, on a separate thread on the CPU. And with this, and also in Leadworks in the vegetation system, I'm doing culling on the GPU. Well, the culling algorithm I have here is quite a lot more advanced than what I had in Leadworks. And it occurred to me that I can actually replace all of our CPU cooling for the whole engine. I can do all our cooling on the GPU for everything. Right now, I'm just going to start with this system.
Wow.
But yeah, we can replace the whole cooling thread. So what that means is that would get rid of the need for any the swept frustrum that we have, where the camera volume is a little bit like out of sync with what the camera visibility set is. That problem goes away. It eliminates about 200 kilobytes of code. It eliminates an entire thread in the engine, and it eliminates kind of a lot of complexity, because that thread is like, getting sent out by the rendering thread and then getting received by the rendering thread. And there's some difficult things, especially with like tessellation, where those things can sort of like, I have to save the state of things they were at in the calling thread at the time that was launched, and then use that state when it returns, because that's how everything, the data was built. So that's something I would like to do, and I think that would give us another performance boost, especially with dense game levels.
But Vulkan has also this stateless rendering. Maybe that could be also considered in that case.
Well, this is using OpenGL 4.6 actually.
Yeah, but I meant for Ultra and Vulkan.
We have no Vulkan anymore.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't follow. What happened?
I talked about it for like an hour, like a month ago.
Okay.
I talked about it for a long time. Basically,
Okay, I have to watch the video.
yeah, it's. I think it's a pretty good video, but basically, like, it takes too damn long to get anything done with Vulkan. Like, I needed my to get my powers back, and so that's why I'm able to. I mean, this would have taken me like. This is doing the exact same thing that Vulkan would be doing, but it would have taken me like probably about 5 times longer to do it.
Yeah, I know Vulkan. It's a lot
You're
of
forgetting the speed
preparations.
up you got from it switching to OpenGL.
We did see a performance increase on AMD cards, which is like the opposite of what I was expecting.
Exactly. Yeah, true.
I think the OpenGL and Vulkan renderer run about the same speed on NVIDIA, which is, again, like, I mean, we have to test every assumption, because like everything that we know is wrong, basically. Like all.
And I think AMD is faster with Vulkan because it has these glitches. So the glitches kind of override get rid of the slowdowns, which NVIDIA does correctly.
I don't know about that, but I was under the assumption that AMD was faster with Vulkan, that AMD was faster with Vulkan and NVIDIA was the same
I've seen
speed.
the same. Yeah, I have AMD and NVIDIA, and it's definitely faster on AMD, but it has some glitches.
But that's not true though, because we saw the exact opposite. We saw like NVIDIA was about the same speed, and on AMD, like OpenGL was actually a lot faster. So maybe there's, anyways.
Yeah, well, I think OpenGL is a good balance between the two.
Yeah, I mean, it just lets me get stuff done like way, way, way faster. And then I actually looked at the adoption rate of Vulkan, and it's terrible. Like if you like, I showed like a graph of its adoption like over the few years, and it's been declining for like 3 or 4 years. Anyways, so the way this works is by you have these distinct layers, and in LEDWorks you just had like one model per layer. The problem with that is you would get it's very easy to get things. You don't have any the separate layers don't see each other, so you'll get, and you can see it in this video, you'll get like trees growing out of a rock sometimes. I think we just passed one. So those layers don't see each other. So what I'm doing is I'm adding multiple variations to each layer. So you have like these sub layers, And so they share like that noise. They share that noise pattern, and all the variations within a layer share that noise pattern. And so as a result of that, like it spaces them out. So it'll say, it wants to draw something here, and it'll say, okay, is this going to be a rock? Is it going to be a tree? Which tree is it going to be? And they're weighted, so like there's a probability that of what type of thing will appear. And so that does two things. It solves the problem of objects appearing intersecting each other, in their placement. And it also means that when you paint onto the terrain, when you have that layer selected, you paint a bunch of stuff all at once. Not just like everything in your layer will appear. So the way I see this working out is you'll usually have like one layer for like grass and like, whatever other small ground cover you have, maybe some small rocks, maybe small plants and stuff. And then you have a second layer for your bigger things. And so that's things that, bigger rocks and trees that you don't want intersecting. And so you can put, 20 different trees in a layer and it should be fine. It should run at exactly the same speed as it is, with one tree.
Would it be possible to interact with the trees and the rocks, for example, that the player can pick up a stone from the ground, a small stone, and let them disappear?
Yeah, the way you would do that is you would retrieve all the instances within an area to figure out like what is actually there. And then you've got your rock, right? And
Yes.
when you pick it up, what you're doing is you're setting the visibility of that instance to be hidden, and so it disappears. And then you have a model. You have the same model of a rock that
Yeah.
appears in its place.
I know what you mean, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you could also have first you have like a non-physical rocks, but when you touch them, then they become physical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do have collision, but they're static. So if you want to chop down a tree, or pick up a rock or something, you can do that.
But what's with the mesh then? If the collider is still there, if the tree is not visible? So
If
yeah,
the
you
instance,
chop a tree,
what's that?
if you chop a tree, for example, then the tree disappears visibility wise. You don't see them, but is the collider still there? So the player would maybe collide with an
No,
invisible. Okay.
no, because it uses the same. It uses like the same, like basically like
But-
the same mask for.
Let's say you chop off a branch of a tree, and then you don't touch it anymore. Then it could somehow maybe become a sprite again from the remains.
Well, you could reactivate it if you wanted to. Like, I don't know why, but I would just like once you modify a model, if you want to change it, I would just like set its visibility to hidden, and then replace it with a conventional, like just a 3D model. And again, the reason we do things this way is because this is designed to handle very, very big landscapes. And so the memory usage for each of these, it results in like 500 times less memory. And so there are like landscape sizes where like, I think it was like, if you have like a 16384 by 16384 grid of instances and each one takes 64 bytes, I think that works out to be like 16 gigabytes of data. Whereas with our system, that would require only 32 megabytes of data. And in the future, I want to go in the direction of like big landscapes. And so that's why we're doing that. Another detail of it is that you can see it pretty well here on the sides. There's 3 alignment modes. One is just a normal one where like the object, its center is aligned to the tree, to the terrain. Another one is where each vertex is aligned to the terrain, and in this video I have it hard coded so that all of the layers are using that. That's why the trees are distorted here. Each vertex is aligning to the terrain, which isn't what you actually want. And then a third mode is when you can make things that rotate to the normal of the terrain, and that actually looks really, really good with rocks. It looks a lot better than having them sort of like sheared.
Well, it could also look good on trees too, only by like a slight, because not all trees stand perfectly still or straight up. You know what I mean?
Well, there's also variation in the pitch.
Right.
You can do that. I don't know, maybe like a partial align to normal too. That could be also an option.
Can you also set up the radius that you have a fixed radius where the trees appears and all other trees disappear? So if for example someone with a smaller GPU will play the game, that he is...
Oh yeah. So like a view distance for each. You can
Yeah.
adjust the view distance for each layer.
Okay, that's nice.
And what about the lightning? Like in Crisis 1, they had some kind of that the sun came from behind a leaf, so the leaf was kind of like illuminated from behind.
That's actually really, really easy to do. All you have to do, if you just enable, if you make the material two-sided, I forget, it might be called backface culling in the material editor. If you disable backface culling or you make it two-sided, then when you have illumination like that coming from the top the top side, then it just appears bright on the bottom side. A couple of things I found with trees is your normals are actually really important. For grass, you probably want all your normals sticking straight up because the grass is double-sided and it doesn't really have a distinct direction. With leaves, you want, like if you have a plane of leaves or branches, and it's double-sided, you want the normals to be, if the y component of the normal is below 0, you want to flip that normal upside down. And so like for these trees, I had to write like a little piece of code that inverted the normal when it was pointing down. Not on the trunks, but on the branches and stuff. Because otherwise you'll get like patches of dark areas on the trees that don't look right. I think I'll provide that as like an extension because a lot of that stuff is very like, it might vary from tree to tree. Sometimes you kind of want a side to side normal, but you also want it mostly pointing up. And another thing I found is that your MIP mapping is actually really important. If you just use a conventional bilinear filter, when you downsample each MIP map, then when you have a masked texture like this, the alpha gets kind of washed out very easily. And so I did sort of a weighted alpha that tends to retain the pixels. And that makes trees look a lot better in the distance. I don't think I'm using that in this video, which is why. Let's see. I just saw it a second ago. See how these
Why do you use the foe is very kind of like an alien? It's not very realistic, I think.
What's that?
The field of view, the angle is too narrow or not too wide.
I don't know. It's just using a 90 degree. It's just using the vertical default. I wasn't really paying attention to that.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think 4 to 5 is more realistic.
So what you see out here, you can see that the trees, it's getting very scraggly because those pixels are getting getting sort of like washed out. I think this is using just a simple bilinear, and I know the video, it's only 720, it's not great, but that fixes this problem you see here. So the thing I haven't done yet that I'm working on that's kind of hard is adding the variations in. It's a little bit difficult because like the GPU wants data in a certain format and I have to sort of work backwards to construct those commands. I think I've almost got it. I was working on it this morning and I kind of want to get back to working on that. So let's see. My plan is to, that's the thing I want to get done is the variations, because that's a big when that's done, that's kind of the core of the algorithm, and everything else is like an artistic, not too technically difficult, just takes time to add. So I think I'm going to spend hopefully I can get that working today, and then I'll go back to bug fixing for a few days because I know a lot of things cropped up on the forum. As long as they're documented in the bug reports forum, then everything's fine. It'll get looked at. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So Tree It, you can get that on Steam or for free on their website.
How's the porting process from Tree to Ultra Engine?
It's pretty good. They export an FBX. I found that their default settings make pretty high poly trees. So what I found works pretty well is to export set it to use 3 or 4 LOD levels, and then just use the last 2.
Okay, well, maybe we can get a guide up or something so people can.
Yeah, that would certainly be helpful.
Yeah, because it's towards the FBX, and I haven't had great experience importing FBX into Ultra Engine. My old models were designed for Lightworks, and they just get all screwed up. So.
Well, are you using the Facebook's tool?
Yeah, I used the one included.
Okay.
It's just more streamlined just to re-export them as GLTF.
Yeah, it doesn't export GLTF, unfortunately. Let's see. Speaking of, has anybody looked at the let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Has anybody looked at this?
I have not.
Okay. This might support loading FBX files natively. That is something that would be kind of nice. Right. I'm also considering doing our own file format.
Even though you were very hesitant in not doing that?
Well, I want to... I don't want to... I want to make sure that...
It's the right call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's... I'm not sure, but I'm finding that if we add a lot of customizations to the GLTF format, a lot of
things will break.
Not really, but if we add a lot of extensions, a lot of data through extensions, yes, you can pull the models back into a modeling program, but any of the custom information you have gets lost. And so when you bring them back into Ultra, you have to go through that process again. So we effectively already have a custom file format.
Right.
Modeling programs suck. They don't do the basic, they don't provide basic functionality. Or if they do, nobody knows how to use it. That's another thing I found.
I think modeling programs are more meant to make I think they're designed for that the 3D model stays in the program, and then exporting is just an afterthought, kind of.
I think I get the feeling that everything we want to do is an afterthought. I don't think they care. I think they're all for it seems like they're all for CG. I don't think they care about games at all.
Yeah, it's weird because
3D Max.
Yeah. I'm not the same about artists. I get contacted almost every day or week by some artists. They want to send me models, animated models, but then I tell them that it's not how games work. Games must be more physical.
Yeah, how many people here know how to apply box UV mapping in Blender?
I do. It's just annoying.
Anybody else?
I use Rhizome UV. It's a unwrapping software which automatically can unwrap complex models.
Yeah,
Do you
and
know
there's
how to?
also
Do you know how
extra
to?
palette.
Okay, I'm not talking about unwrapping. I'm talking about box UV mapping. Do you know how to do that in Blender?
No.
So how many
guess
people are here?
yeah.
I don't even know how to do that. I do. I know how to do it in 3ds Max. It's easy. Yeah. So and like
Well, because I was like, well, I when I gave that demo, I always said like UV isn't my strongest point. I think Marcel is. I think Marcel actually put a blog post on how to properly UV wrap on the forum.
well, okay.
Um,
I'm not talking about UV unwrapping. I'm just talking about applying like box UV mapping. Which is it's a pretty simple algorithm. I know how to do it in 3ds Max. So like okay, unwrap 3D.
well, especially I don't know what that kind of is. I thought you meant like unwrap a model based on
Okay.
box projection.
Okay. So 0 people know how to do it in Blender.
I
Okay.
got basically the feeling that that only 3D Max is caring about games, and it's much easier to do models for games in 3D Max, I think.
I come from a background in that, so I tend to agree, but I don't know.
Yeah, and because our company also uses 3ds Max. No, AutoCAD. Sorry, no, wrong idea.
Yeah. So also, like I noticed, like I was working with, I was using Unwrap 3D quite a lot. It's polygon. It has some very good polygon reduction. Blender doesn't have any like mesh decimation. It doesn't have a tool to reduce the detail of a mesh. To my knowledge, maybe there's an extension out there, but I don't think it does. Unwrap 3D has a pretty good one. I actually know the algorithm he used, and I'd like to incorporate that as a tool. But I think probably anyways, the reason I'm talking about UV mapping is because like I've had people say like if I just added like some tools like that, very basic stuff into our editor for when you open up a model, just apply like some UV mapping to it. I've had people say like, wow, that would be amazing if you had that. And it's like, well, I mean, don't you have, I thought, and this is like people who use Blender all the time. And I'm like, wait, I mean, can't you just do this? Like, why do I have to pick up the slack here? But it appears that, it seems like the more of those sort of built-in tools, mesh adjustment tools that I add, the happier people are.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not really sure, but like I know I could put together. I don't know. It might be overall better just to use our own format and just treat everything else as an interchange format.
Right, and then yeah, then we can make like a Blender extension to export it out, and then because you can make your mesh in Blender and then export it to Ultra Engine, and then in Ultra Engine you could do the UV mapping and everything.
Yeah, I think we could probably handle everything except animation.
Right.
I don't know how it works in Blender, but I if I had to bet money, I'd say like it's probably too complicated for anybody to figure out, because that seems to be like almost impossible. Like FBX and GLTF are the only file formats I know that have like character animation. Maybe Pixar's USD does too. I'm not sure.
Yes, I have a question about now the future of Ultra and LedWax. So now that Ultra is kind of like LedWax 5 or 4, I don't know. So what is the ultimate goal in the future? Will it still be Vulkan or also DirectX, OpenGL, all mixed maybe? Or is it then now only OpenGL in future?
So as of 0.9.5, we're going to be relying on OpenGL 4.6, which has proven to be, it allows rapid development, and it has everything that Vulkan has except ray tracing. And there are some ways to both NVIDIA and AMD, I think, have their own proprietary APIs for ray tracing. that you can use, and you can also do like interoperability between Vulkan and OpenGL for ray tracing. So there are ways to do that, and just about anything would be easier than maintaining a Vulkan renderer. I think Vulkan is dead already. I think it died like 3 years ago, and nobody.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because isn't both OpenGL and Vulkan developed by Kronos?
Well, Kronos inherited OpenGL, but the people who are at Kronos now are not the people who invented OpenGL.
Okay.
I think
So
Vulkan.
maybe Vulkan was just invented to kill DirectX. If you have a conspiracy theory.
Well, Vulkan is the best thing that ever happened to DirectX. Anyways, if you look at my presentation from like a month ago.
Yeah, well, I will.
There's the adoption for Vulkan looks like it like goes up, and then it peaks at like 2019, and then it goes back down. And if you look at the numbers of like in 2015, OpenGL had like 60% as many games as DirectX, and in 2023, Vulkan has like 5% as many games as DirectX. So I think everybody in the industry like knows at this point that Vulkan is dead. I think it failed. It very clearly failed.
Right.
I think we'll stick with OpenGL 4.6 for now, and I don't know what the future holds, but in the future, I would guess that the future is probably going to be DirectX running on everything. Apple's doing that.
Well, I don't know, because what I have heard that DirectX is faster on small scenarios, but when the scenarios get very big, then OpenGL is much faster.
I don't think the performance of the API really matters. Like that's not what people make their decision on.
Well, for example, NASA, when they have like a big triangle scenarios, they would probably use OpenGL then, because it renders them fast, as far as I know.
Like OpenGL faster than DirectX? You mean OpenGL?
Yeah. For many polygons or triangles, OpenGL should be faster than DirectX, and DirectX faster for very small scenes.
They're all so close to the metal now. Like in a modern renderer, you call so few commands that I think it's pretty. I don't think it really. I think it's just depends on the hardware. I think everything just runs at the speed of the hardware if it's done right.
Yeah. But okay, I kind of like the idea that we are now using an established, tested standard, so that makes the development also much faster. Get everything done.
Yeah, it's way more efficient. And at first I felt bad about it, and then I looked at like then when I plotted out what the adoption rate of Vulkan is, I was like, oh crap, we got tricked.
Bamboozled.
So yeah, this is going to be the next big step. I think this will be like a headlining feature because a lot of people are really interested in this. And I'm definitely very eager to see what people who are a little bit more artistic than myself are able to do with this.
Well, I want to see if I can do it, because I'm terrible at the terrain editor. I'm terrible at vegetation. So if I can make something that looks like this, I'll be pretty happy.
If we talk about the terrain and the thing, also the terrain tools that just says in the forum would be really important, because otherwise it would be impossible to have any control about the surface height from a terrain at a given point.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that stuff. It's just there's a lot to do. But I'm gonna try to get the variations done, and then because that's like pretty hardcore stuff that I want to. It takes a lot of concentration to make it happen, and then after that I'll spend a few days on bug fixing and get you guys some updates. Um,
Right.
and next week I'll be able to show some cooler stuff. This is this is also like, I mean, this is like the second day of having. This is the results of like the second day of having this system working. So that's pretty good for 2 days.
There are like some screenshots that look almost realistic, because you couldn't see like the imposters or anything, and it just looks really good.
Yeah, the imposters will definitely look better when I'd make up my own. I'm using the ones that are rendered by Triet. This is the
Does it mean-
realistic. Yeah.
Does it mean that the shaders from Ledworks will work now with Ultra?
No, they're like
Okay.
they're. I repurposed some of them for sure, but
Levix has its own like shader format, which just combines all the types of shaders into one file.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
the shaders were simple enough that we could do that. Another thing, I don't think anybody has commented on it, and I'm sure it's not going to come through, watching a YouTube video within a YouTube video. But I noticed a lot of like jumpiness in motion when I was like flying around, and it was really bothering me. And I was able to figure out the cause of that, and I was able to fix that fortunately. So you will see in the next update, you will see motion will appear a lot smoother. And I know nobody's complained about it, but I did notice it quite a bit.
well, what do you record at 30?
That video is recorded at 60.
I was probably watching on my phone and I didn't.
How
notice.
long you would say the terrain tools would take to create some height adjustment tool?
I can't put a number on it right now.
Okay.
So Reddit on their website last weekend in UK. Imposters. Funny picture of a cat.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, this is I'm in the middle of something right now, so I think next week I'll have a more interesting presentation for you. But any other questions or anything?
Yes, one more. It would be maybe cool if we could have some callbacks for animations if the animation is done, for example. So
Yeah, good.
if you think about you get hit from an entity, he does a hit animation to you, so that you can get in the end the damage from this, for example. So you can calculate some damage or other stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was in the engine, right? Because it was in Leadworks.
Was it?
Yeah, I helped write it. I translated the old animation manager from Darkness Awaits, and
Yeah, but it had callbacks in that?
yeah, it had callbacks, both Lua and C++.
Yeah, I agree. It's it would be useful.
I'm surprised it's not in Ultra Engine because it was in Leadworks. It's like set animation. Play animation, I'm sorry. It's play animation. Good on.
Oh, I think there was a hook that, let's see,
Yeah.
at the end of that.
Hold on, let me look. Let me pull up the headers. I've been looking at Lyrics headers all week, so give me a second.
I think the Dark Souls games work like this, so you do an animation, and after the animation you do the damage.
Mistake.
Well, yeah, it would be nice. I think it's I think it's actually in the component system.
No, Leverix only had an actors. Well, hold on. Let me look at the headers real quick.
I think there's an end animation callback in the component system.
Animation manager. There was an animation manager that did this.
Yeah, I think it was a function in the component in the script file.
Here it is. Yeah, script and animation.
Yeah, but it also existed in C++.
Because right now it's hard to figure out when the animation is done or not. If you
Well,
play it as a-
is that all you want to do, or is there going to be other stuff?
Yeah, I want to basically my zombie is hitting, and I want to calculate the damage he does in the end of the animation.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be other things that people want to do. They're going to want to set like a time in a sequence, and they're going to have like a callback that they want called every time it passes that marker. So I guess like my response to that is I think we need to like can we figure out like all the things that people are going to want to do before we design the system? Like, because if we have like a callback that you can set when the animation ends, if people then say, okay, well now I want something else, then we're going to have to go back and design something different. So can we figure out like, can we get like the whole scope of the functionality we want before we start implementing something?
Sure.
That would be very helpful.
I'm not sure if the core engine should actually have all these kind of special needs, or should there maybe be some kind of like a game engine on top of Ultra?
I don't see how else you would do it, because this is stuff that happens on another thread, so it has to be. I think it has to be in the core engine because otherwise you're just not going to have access to it very easily.
At least you need a function to determine if the animation is done or not.
Well, you could make some kind of C++ class, which then
Yeah, you could just do what
checks
level
the animation frame, and then yeah.
There is, yeah, but that data only exists in the animation thread.
You have no possibility to get any animation data and which frame you are or something else at the moment.
Yeah.
This is why I say you need some way to figure out if the animation is done or at which point. It's also, if you want to create a server, it's also important that you get the keyframe, the actual keyframe from the animation.
Yeah, so
that
like
you can sync the animations.
I'm thinking like a something where you select a sequence and a time, and you have a hook that gets called instead of just when the animation ends, but you can set it at any time.
Yeah, the frame or the given frame, for example.
Yeah, and it's also like complicated because the at any given time an animated model might have like a dozen different animations playing. Because they're all blended together.
When you have an animation like a hit with a fist, so your arm goes straight and then goes back, that would be the animation. But if the arm hits a wall, it shouldn't continue the animation, but it should stop the animation there and go back from there. And then send some kind of feedback that I stopped here, not at the end.
This kinetic stuff, I think.
Yeah, that gets into a level of fidelity that, if you can do that if you want, but it's usually not worth it. Yeah, I'm thinking something like let me type out here like entity.
Well, in general, I would say if it's doable and not too difficult, then why not do it? I think all aspects of reality would be very welcome.
No, I'm saying like something like that would probably, it's probably impractical because it would just obliterate your performance.
You should also include the animation. If your model has multiple animations, there are some animations with lesser frame rates and some with more frame rates. So it would be also good to
This
draw the animation into the hook.
the speed, the animation sequence speeds from coming from a GLTF file are supported.
Or then what I'm usually doing is not use animations at all, but use physics joints, because then I don't need any animations, and I get all the reality from the physics simulation.
If you're making like a simple robot, then that's fine, but I don't think that's going to work for a character with a lot of joints.
Probably difficult, yeah.
So this is kind of
as you know, I already made in Letwerks this walking robots. It was pretty easy, actually.
this is sort of what I'm thinking. Let's see, hook, and then let's sequence. Entity get sequence length. So this is like what I'm thinking for like if you want something that happens at the end of a sequence, then that's kind of like what I'm thinking you would do.
Yeah, but if you want to have multiple animations, this is what I'm thinking. So you should add the animation into it. So
Well, that's what the sequence is. That's the animation that it's associated with.
Okay, the sequence also stores the animation name and everything else. Then
Doesn't the entity have its own like animation manager built in? I haven't looked at the headers and I'll
Yeah,
change in a little bit.
under the hood, yeah.
Well, why don't you expose that, and then you write a universal callback function. So like I'm just gonna write like dummy code. It might not be right, but like. Source, I'm gonna apply to.
By the way, when are you gonna make the numbers double instead of floats, or both?
What's that?
When you are implementing the double floats.
Well, I'm not going to do it until we need it. So,
Okay.
like, just double floats by themselves aren't that useful. You need, because then the next thing you need is you need something to populate the world. So, like big streaming terrain and like planet rendering. That's the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff.
I would need them for like a planetary simulations,
Yeah.
big distance.
and I think with this animation hook, with the sequence name, the sequence length, and the callback, everything would cover it, right? So
I think so.
This is not complete, but this code's being dumb, so I'm not too worried about it. So why don't you just do something like that? You make like what I did on my research project. I made like an event system, but with callbacks, and then I just have like I have callback IDs, and then you just provide a source. It's kind of like the event system. You apply a source, you apply the function, the callback function. I use std function. I didn't use the raw pointers, and then you just pass by the extra, which would be the entity, which is the thing you want to edit. And then in the function, you would just cast the object, the sources, and the extras. And then in the callback function, you can actually talk to the animation manager directly.
Because it's
not really
complicated.
It's complicated. I think it's really complicated. What Josh posted is pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Well, the callback system I made is more universal. Like you can do multiple callbacks to pretty much anything you want, and I found it to be very useful. So.
And also the animation manager, it lives on a separate thread. So
right.
All your
You can't just get it.
all your code would have to be like thread safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the only like tricky part of this is actually just tracking like what the previous frame was, which I guess isn't too hard. But if you feel that this is sufficient, then I think this would be a good way to do things.
It would cover every state, as I said. So you can set it in the start of the animation. You can set it in the end of the animation, in the middle, whenever you want.
Okay.
So it would be possible to set the hook and let the prefab or the model despawn, for example, in your thing with die. Like if the animation is done, he can despawn.
Yeah. Reap is thinking.
No, yeah, I'm always thinking of.
I can hear your brain.
Yeah. The roosters, I see. I'm in the same room, so.
Still
Yeah, I am.
wondering, since we are now in OpenGL, you can probably reuse some code from LEDWAX also. Is that true?
A little bit. I mean, Vulkan and OpenGL are actually extremely similar. OpenGL is just basically, it's just like Vulkan without a bunch of extraneous nonsense.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, for really quick, for the next release, can you document the components scripts a little bit more so people can make their own component properties? Like the properties is not really defined. Like
The properties that appear in the editor?
Yeah, like how you make a drop-down list, how you make a checkbox, how you make a like a file path search. That's just a documentation thing, but I don't know how much of that is final.
I agree that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Another thing would be to just create a wiki or something on the website where members can create article or users to get a bit workload from yourself away and let the community create some wiki pages, for example.
Yeah, and also examples, like working code examples.
Well, the documentation is actually it's all on GitHub, and it is possible to fork the repository and then submit patches to it. So that's a little bit more involved than a wiki, but
at least you can review it and be like, "Yep, that's right," or "No, that's wrong." Or
okay.
Like any of these pages, you can just click here on Edit, and
all right, but yeah, okay. Making examples for specific commands is one thing, but then making examples for like a game development, that's a different thing. I use multiple commands.
So each page is an MD, is a markdown file in the system, and then TOC. The table of contents is just a JSON file.
I was thinking we could have some kind of like a game-specific examples, like how to make a bullet hit something, or how to pick up an object, or how to destroy stuff, slice them up.
Well, what I'm saying is like this. We do have this is an open system that like anybody can contribute to.
This would be also an option, I think. But it's more complicated. And wiki is just straightforward, but it's also the time you need to set up.
I know, but we have like this looks so much better than a wiki.
That's right. Yes.
By the way, is there any news from Julio about the Newton 4?
Oh, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't even. Um, it seems like that thing is in development. Like, I don't think he's really going to get anybody to use it until he writes documentation.
Yeah, I got another thing when we talk about physics. I find out that Mixamo capsule colliders are more spheres than actually capsules. It would be maybe cool if when the collider gets adjusted that you can define all values after it in the window. You know, for example, for the convex hull collider, you got a drop down. You can just set a value or something. And for capsule colliders or box colliders, would maybe cool that you can adjust the size of it manually.
Yeah, that would be nice to have, actually.
Because in the general channel, I posted some screenshots. So my collider is more a ball in the general channel. He has a bit on top. It's a few days ago. Maybe I can link it. Let me see. There. I linked the first post. Oh, now it's away.
Does anybody know which physics engines are kind of the most popular at the moment? Havoc, Bullet, Newton, physics.
If you scroll down, you see the capsule collider.
That's not right. That should not be happening.
So if you, for example, create some drop-down values or numeric inputs for the height, I think it's height, right? Radius and center.
Yeah, it would just be radius and it would just be radius and height. Yeah, that looks like it's not being calculated correctly, actually.
So so if you could adjust it manually, and then it would find, because you always store the collider. So
yeah, I agree.
Right, like
Good
does
suggestion.
like a best guess, and you can just say, "Oh, that's not right. All right, let me fix that."
Yep. All right. Anything else before, or can I get back to work?
No, you can get back to work. Anything I want to say, I'll probably write in a blog. But
Okay, cool.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, there's. Oh, hey, Spider Pig. Spider Pig. Spider Pig.
There you go.
Good morning. We decided we're going to set things an hour later starting next week.
An hour later, okay, that'll be back
Earlier.
to 5 a.m. for the moment.
So
No, it'll be earlier. Because an hour
Oh,
later will be 3.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Earlier. That's what I meant.
Oh, earlier. No, that's all right. 3 a.m.
Oh, wait, but now Spider Pig has winter. We have summer and he has winter.
Yeah, it's coming into it's autumn at the moment. It'll be winter soon.
All right. Well, that's. Why are there crying faces appearing? Okay. I guess that's all for this week. I'm gonna get back to work now. We've got a lot of stuff to get through, but once we do, this is shaping up to be really awesome. So
Yeah.
that's all I got to say for now.
Sounds very promising, and I'm very enthusiastic to follow now the development and
Yep.
the speed.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you too.
you
You too. See you.
Bye.
See you.